Right, good evening and a hearty welcome. It's often said that when the elephants fight, the grass always suffers. Today, the grass is not merely bending, it's being torn from the roots. Now, the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party and the opposition APC have clocked horns once again, but this time, one side has simply walked away. Now, the APC boycotts governance entirely. Parliament sits half empty today, and Freetown City Council chambers are deserted. No mayor, no councillors. Mayor Accusations said on AYV Wake Up Sierra Leone program just last week that she misses working for the people. Yet she will not return to her office because she said it was the APC that put her there. Simple. Now, a striking confession, if you ask, that her loyalty, well, more or less lies not with the people she rules, but the party that nominated her. The APC's grievance is singular, central. They accuse newly appointed Electoral Commissioner Edmund Alpha of corruption and criminality in past elections. President's bill, they argue, acted in ill faith by appointing him before Parliament could pass a bill establishing a new search committee, well, which is a key tripartite recommendation from the 2023 Unity Agreement. Now, the President, they say, should have waited. Instead, they believe he has broken faith. Now the APC has threatened street protests. The SLPP chairman, Jimmy Batilusunga, has matched them threat for threat, stating that if the APC protests, his party will protest too. Now, in the absence of APC councillors, the SLPP attempted to appoint an interim mayor from among their own ranks. Legal voices and civil society immediately called it illegal. Now, the Local Government Act of 2022, pointed out, makes no provision for an acting mayor with executive powers. Mayor Accusations herself took to her Facebook, citing Section 16.3, that councillors may only elect someone to preside over a meeting in the mayor's absence, nothing more. Meanwhile, in a democratic shift from course, the SLPP councillor, Ibrahim Blah, who had been chosen for the role, did not wait long to denounce it, publicly refusing the title the law does not recognize. So here we stand today, a capital city without a functioning council, a parliament missing its opposition voices, and a mayor who misses the people but will not serve them without her party's blessing. Now, a would-be interim mayor has also rejected his own party's appointment, and at the center of it all this evening, an electoral commissioner whose name has become a spark threatening to ignite the streets. Now, the APC has given its ultimatum, but the SLPP has refused to blink. An ordinary Sierra Leonean, those who have already paid far too much in this country are the ones who stand to suffer the most in this political tsunami. So today, this evening, we ask who truly pays the price and who will stop the fighting before the ground splits and swallows everyone and everything. This is AYV on Sunday.
AYV on Sunday.
Hello and welcome. Please allow us to take you on an everlasting journey of hard-hitting journalism. No spin, no filter, just the truth.
On AYV on Sunday, we ask the questions that many are afraid to ask, and to test the level of sincerity and integrity of the people who have the power to shape our world.
From the bureaucratically minded corridors of power and the seats of the president,
to the deafening voices of the people that actually matter.
What you should know is that ours are not just mere conversations.
They are accountability personified, live, unfiltered, and in your face.
A live audience of 10 persons will also be included in each edition of the program on first come, first included basis.
Hello and welcome. I am Phoebian Sweel.
And I am Victor Jones.
And this is AYV on Sunday.
Right, thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight. I am Victor Jones. Welcome to AYV on Sunday. You're watching us on our local channel 33. We are also broadcasting internationally on channel 399 on DSTV. You're also listening to us this evening on radio on 101.7. Joining me on the panel this evening are Leone Thompson, an internationally trained lawyer and human rights advocate who doubles as the founder and managing lead of Citizens Bahrain. We also have Moses Selu Mambu, a former FAS civil society voice, who now speaks for the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. We are also expecting to be joined by Alfred Minkailu Kuruma, who is a member of the main opposition APC party's Publicity Secretariat. Our viewers and listeners are highly encouraged to participate in this all-important program by dropping a comment on our Facebook page. It's AYV News. We're also streaming live on YouTube this evening on Africa Young Voices Media Empire. And also we're on TikTok, which is quite new. TikTok Live AYV News. We are also there streaming live this evening. You are heartily welcome. Good evening. Indeed. It's a pleasure having you. While we await the coming of Minkailu, let me start with a question for all of you. And I would like your honest answer. Now, I'll take you back to the TRC report. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission established after Sierra Leone's brutal civil war identified injustice as one of the root causes of the conflict, claimed tens of thousands of lives. The TRC warned that when citizens lose faith in their leaders and institutions, the consequences are always devastating. Today, as you've listened to my intro, the parliament today is half empty. You would see it by your own eyes. We have capital city without a functioning mayor, or council, if you like. The mayor has admitted herself that, serving the people is her forte, but she will not go to office because her loyalty lies more with the party. We have a ruling party that almost attempted to install a mayor, which is a clear violation of 16(3) of the Local Government Act. All of these are pointing to serious, deep-seated problems we have in Sierra Leone. I'll quote you a former mayor of the SLPP, Leone Joe Sandi, who publicly also condemned the act as quite illegal. Now, I'll start with you, Mambu. Are you not, both of you parties, not only the SLPP, walking Sierra Leoneans back towards the very precipice the TRC warned against, that is abuse of power, intimidation, and when citizens generally lost, confidence in their leaders?
Thank you very much for the opportunity given this evening to the Sierra Leone People's Party to be part of this debate. Such debates are interesting to continue educating the public on national discourse to make sure we shape the voices of the people, politically, socially, and economically, to make sure they move along as the political landscape gets expanded every day. Let me answer your question by putting it in context. Okay. Where are we coming from? Okay. After the 1967 elections, 1967-68, because Shaka Stevie actually won in 67 and took power in 68, right? From that point to 1989, Sierra Leone became a one-party state. A lot of things went wrong. Under the leadership of Shaka Stephen, who was representing APC nepotism, nationalist movement, you understand, creation of military, making sure that you left a whole population behind. At the end of the day, war break out. Even though when Momo came, he realized that he was sitting on a time bomb. So he quickly had to transform, but then it was too late. Went into the 11-year brutal war that up to now commentators are classing as senseless, that there was no reason for such brutality in our democracy as a country. And all those occur because of the 27-year misrule of APC. Now, In 1996, you know the rest of the story. President Bio re-overthrew their government because they had break the trust they had, the commitment they had to hand over power to the people. And then he went first to Bintumani, and then later, after Bintumani, the people, the Sierra Leoneans agree that they want elections before peace, right? And then he conducted the 1996 elections. The SLPP won that election. The SLPP took power, and I have few quotations I used to make, and people tend sometimes that it's funny, but it's not. There's a movie called Marlene. If you look that movie, the intro of the movie said, at a particular point, the destiny of a whole society rests on the shoulder of one man, and that man is called Marlene. In context, the destiny of Sierra Leone democracy, starting 1996, rested on the shoulders of SLPP, because it was SLPP who won election during war, when bullets were flying. It was the SLPP that won election in 1996. The SLPP was overthrown 3 times, attempted coup 15 times between 1996 to 2012, and at the end of the day, the SLPP was able to finish the war under the leadership of President Dr. Ahmad Tijan Kabalet, with support from the United Nations and all other development partners. We ended the war in 2002. Between 2002 to 2007, what happened? The President Kaba-led government started laying the foundation and implementing some of the things that led to the war. One, the President Kaba-led government established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You remember that, right? The former Archbishop was heading that. We had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established. The Special Court for Sierra Leone, and later the residual Special Court for Sierra Leone, came to make sure we treat impunity, right? At the end of the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it was SLPP that started implementing some of the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. For example, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommended for repatriation for all those who suffered as a result of the war. The SLPP, with support from the United Nations Peace Building Fund, implemented that. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommended for a political party to be formed for RUFP. The SLPP, through an act of parliament, established the RUFP as a political party. We implemented democratic institutions like the ECSL, the Human Rights Commission. We brought all those democratic institutions to lead us. In 2007, what happened? I'm giving you this background for you to understand clearly between both political parties who have attempted or actually taken frantic efforts to make sure we foster peace, we promote peace, national cohesion, democratic stability, and freedom of speech. Now in 2007, we handed over the country. Between 2007 to 2018, nothing on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was implemented. Nothing. The former government did nothing to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Then we came back, right? When we came back, we continued from where we stopped. In 2007, with the implementation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, what did we do? Page 180 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission said we should remove death penalty from our books, right? The SLPP government removed death penalty. The same recommendation, I think, was page 76 in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, recommended for us to repeal and replace the 1965 Public Order Act to make sure journalists are not like criminal for reporting the news. They are just reporting the news. They should not be held liable. The SLPP government, one act of parliament, repealed and have replaced the 1965 Public Order Act. Practicing journalists in this country today does not make you criminal. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendation, page 218, said one of the key reasons for the war and our poverty in this country is the exclusion of women in our governance discourse. Women have been excluded in our governance discourse, and women are 60% in population. The population of Sierra Leone, 60% of it are made up of women. So the Truth and Reconciliation recommended the government to take frantic effort to include women in governance processes and procedures. Now, we did not only implement the 30% quota, which was a policy for when the APC was in power. It was only a policy. But when we came, we passed the Giwi Act. Of course, I know you know about this. When we sit here, we speak facts to the people. There are times for politicking. Me, when I debate, I tell people, when it's 2007 or early 2028, we will debate politics. What have you done with the economy? What have you done with education? What have you done with poverty? We will debate that. That's a different discussion. But when we are discussing democracy, peace, the rule of law in this country, the SLPP, we are passionate about it. We become passionate, we become emotional, because we know how many Sierra Leoneans suffered in the hands of the war. We know how many properties, we know where Sierra Leone should have been by now. If not for the cause of the 24 years we wasted and 11 years of senseless brutal war, Sierra Leone could have been a different place by now. So for us in the SLPP, when we talk about democracy, good governance, we speak the truth to the people. We want our colleagues from the APC and development partner, for example, APC. This is Sierra Leone. We are less than 9 million people, right? We are less than a state in Lagos, or the state of Lagos, or some states in the United States. We live in the same country. Mikhail sitting here, we have lived in the same house. Can you believe that? We have lived, stayed in the same house for years. Okay. So we are not enemies. When we come to the public to speak to the people, we need to make sure we are passionate.
You think the people have not lost trust in your party? That's what I asked.
You said what?
You think the people have not lost faith?
No, the people have not lost. No, the people have not lost trust in the SLPP party. Okay. You know why? Two things. Even the debate on the floor, that we're here to debate today, the issue of the boycott and the issue of the appointment of Edmond Alpha. Yeah. Imagine when the SLPP a few days ago, the councillors misrepresented the people, miscommunicated to the people of Sierra Leone, saying that, oh, we have an elected mayor instead of appointing or electing an opposition leader in parliament. You saw what happened, right? Commentators, lawyers.
Was that deliberate?
No, it was not deliberate. We wanted to let the public understand that APC they understand the constitution, they understand the various acts of this country. But then when it came to the appointment of Edmond Alpha, APC don't want to talk about the law. They don't want to speak to the constitution. They don't even want to speak to the provisions of the constitutions or the powers the president had under section 40 or under section 32.3 or under section 34. They don't want to talk about it. So what happened in the case of the mayor a few days ago exposed the APC. He said, the people they say, so APC sabi law, man. Oh, so APC sabi interpret law. You saw the way they were interpreting section 106 of the Local Council Act, right? You saw the way they were interpreting section 16.3 of the Local Council Act, right? It shows that the APC actually sabi the law in this country. So what now make APC boycott? Why are they boycotting? Because they said what? The president appointed, used the constitution to appoint. Two questions you ask. One, the agreement for national unity, was it gazetted? Was it ratified in the House of Parliament? It was not. A lot of pundits have called it gentleman's agreement. The Leone Peace Accord of 1999 was ratified and enacted in Parliament. That was why the government then had the opportunity to give the same status to Fode Sanko as that of the Vice President. That was why it gave rise to debates of the RUFP as a political party. So why do you walk away? If you want your voice cease to be heard, it is okay in a democracy. But for example, the members of parliament, you want to hold Edmond Alpha accountable. Was the law broken? No. We have a lawyer here today. Maybe she can help us to interpret section 32 better. But then these are the wordings of section 32. Okay. Section 32 did not say, and this constitution was written by the APC. Section 32 did not say when the president wants to appoint an ECSL commissioner, the main opposition party should be consulted. No. Section 32 did not say that. You can read it loud for the people. Section 32 is very clear. Section 32.3 said, upon the appointment of the ECSL commissioner, the president shall consult with leaders of registered political parties. The drafters of the constitution were very deliberate, my brother. Well, so why are you walking out when the president have used his constitutional power? The other technique that I will say here today, because I have looked at the tripartite recommendations, 80 of them and +4. Okay. Two things you cannot find in that recommendation. One, there's nothing in that recommendation that said the president upon the signing of this agreement, the president shall not use section 32.3 or 34. You understand? In any case, until and unless the constitutional review that is before Parliament is completed. No recommendation of such is not there. Right. Nothing. So which means, in as much as, and the SLPP have cooperated with one, implementing the unity agreement and also implementing the tripartite recommendations. We have established a secretariat which Golukata is heading. We have done everything in our power. There is now a bill in Parliament.
We'll surely get to all of those later on. We shall be discussing, that is what we call the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. We'll get to that. Leone is here. But let me welcome Payamba. Good evening and welcome to the program. It's a pleasure having you. I'm sure you've listened to Mambu. He has used his time to give us a historical, if you like, expose into what, you know, the SLPP has done in this country. You know, he said they have, you know, changed some bad laws. You know, they've repealed, you know, Part 5 of the Public Order Act, you know, that criminalized, you know, journalists or free speech in this country. He mentioned, you know, the quota they've now given to women so that their voices could be heard. You know, he also pointed out that they're following the spirit and the letter of the TRC report, you know, which had criticized bad governance in this country. But he also said that, you know, the APC had actually done harm to this country. For all of the times you've ruled, he said that you've misbehaved, quote unquote, and that it is they, the SLPP, who have managed, you know, to steer the affairs in this country and restore normalcy. Now, I want you to respond, because I had actually asked him a question whether indeed, you know, he feels as a party that the people of this country have lost faith. And then I'll ask you the same thing as well, Payamba. Do you think that all of these things you're doing, now you've boycotted Parliament because your members are not there, except for Mohamed Bangura, who I will say, you know, is a lost sheep in the whole, you know, equation. You've also left council. The mayor is not on seat. I asked her a few days ago. She told me that she would not go back because her loyalty is with her party who put her there. So, with all of these things, do you think the people are happy, you know, with the APC at the moment, Payamba?
You have asked double-barrel questions. I will try to answer them as you expected. Firstly, I looked at the topic. The topic is political infighting on governance in Sierra Leone. Who pays the price? That is the topic under discussion. I looked at governance holistically. I tried to assess the future of good governance and then the problems affecting good governance, if you like, the challenges or bottleneck. So I may like to talk on that extensively, but let me answer your question. In the first place, for Moses to say the APC, you know, we have misbehaved, I want to believe that is an insult to a political party that is the biggest in Sierra Leone and perhaps sub-Sahara Africa. I mean, I cannot just sit and say the SLPP has misbehaved. No matter what you may say, the SLPP, they have contributed to the growth of this country, to nation building, and have also produced a lot of leaders that have helped to shape, you know, the country's policies and opinions of individuals or citizens. And so when we sit to discuss, we have to accord respect to political parties and individuals. And we also have to guide our debates to be civilized for generations yet unborn, because this is the media and this will go on for generations to watch. I mean, sometime in 2026, Minkailu Kuruma was on AYV on Sunday, and this is what he stated. I can be quoted because I'm an authority. Yeah. Now, we have not misbehaved, but rather we have governed this country judiciously. We've done everything humanly possible to ensure that good governance is sustained, the peace is maintained, and that citizens enjoy the benefits of their government. We've done that extensively. I don't want to go to history because we are not here to talk about history, but then let me just take from 2007. Because in this era of multi-party democracy, Ernest Bai Koroma was elected in 2007, and government is continuity. I was not here when the debate commences, but when I came, I was able to take note of some of the things that Moses was saying, and I will take my time to respond to them, one after the other. When we came, we were ushered in through a democratic process, because it is multi-party democracy. I shall talk about the war and those that we are responsible for wreaking mayhem in this country. He mentioned that. I will not have ventured to go to that area, but he did mention that. But when we came in 2007, we actually brought in the agenda for prosperity. And the Agenda for Prosperity was a continuation of the Poverty Reduction Strategy paper, PRSP, that was introduced by Tijan Kaba after the war. After the war, there was post-war reconstruction in Sierra Leone. We had the United Nations and some other development partners jetting in to contribute immensely to the governance architecture of this country. And so there was security sector reform. The Judiciary was reformed. They helped us to build institutions like the Human Rights Commission, the ONS, the Political Party Regulation Commission, even NACIT. It was income tax. And then it was actually transformed to NACIT and NRA. Both of them were separated. And Ernest Baikowoma was in parliament as a minority leader. Tijan Kaba appointed him to be chair to transform that institution to now NACIT. So we contributed, and governance is continuity. So we took from where Tijan Kaba left and we continued. And so in 2012 we were re-elected overwhelmingly. When President Bio came as president, when he was elected in 2018, we expected the SLPP to have continued because governance is continuity, not to have ventured to undo the APC. But while they failed, they came and decided to undo everything that is good that has been done by the APC in this country. They started by ensuring they terminate contracts, like with electricity projects, the road construction project, and a lot of contracts were terminated by the SLPP. And that in itself actually was a stumbling block to the progress of our country, Sierra Leone. And so fast forward, let me go to what Moses has stated himself. Firstly, he said SLPP ended the war. No, SLPP did not end the war. Sierra Leoneans ended the war. Collectively, as a country, we agreed to end the war. We all can agree that on the 23rd March 1991, a civil war broke out in this country, which lasted for more than a decade and ended in 2002, 18th February. That particular war, the memories that we are left by the war are still fresh. Individuals in this country were maimed. Some became refugees and never returned. Some became displaced. You understand? Most of the provincial headquarters and district headquarters towns were deserted for the city, and most of them have never returned again to their districts. And so the war actually left, a mark in this country that is unspeakable, and we may not want to have a repetition of that. We all understand that there was Bintumani 1 and 2. Just a few days ago, I was going through the records of Tijan Kaba, and he did state that in Bintumani 2, people like President Julius Maada Bio had not wanted elections. They were pushing for peace before election because they had wanted to take the country to peace before ushering a civilian government. But civil society, the media, the citizens of this country stood on their way and decided that no, we are going to have elections in 1996. And believe you me, it was not the APC that laid the foundation for war in this country, because we transitioned the country. The trend of politics at that particular era was one party across West Africa and Africa. So we are transitioning to multi-party democracy. And we introduced the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone that gave birth to democracy. It was the APC. And it is still that constitution that is in existence in this country, which is the ground norm. We introduced that under Joseph Saidu Momo. So if we had not wanted to transition the country, we couldn't have done that. We need to understand that clearly. The SLPP established the REF. No, SLPP did not establish the REF because it was a multi-party democracy. The space was actually created by the APC. No, there was a popular music by the Blind Musical Flames that listed political parties and individuals that were heading those political parties. Asangbe Shekanu, a lot of them were named. You can understand the music I'm referring to. I am not good at lyrics. I could have recited it, but I can't. You see, but they listed political parties and they stated that APC be the comeback, the BPC we don't know, let them left, we know. So that was transition from one party to democracy. And because of that particular clause in the Constitution, it establishes the Political Party Registration Commission, now Regulation Commission. And so in 2002, it was established. And so it's made room for political parties to now step forward to register. So SLPP is a party, cannot establish another party. So it was not the SLPP that established the RFP. RFP was established by individuals that were part of the revolution after disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration, after they are reintegrated in society, they now came to participate in politics. Yeah. Because one of the fundamental principles of good governance and democracy is participation. We shall come to that. Again, he said the SLPP abolished the death penalty. Yeah, I agree. Give it to President Bill. The death penalty was abolished by the SLPP. But then what happened after the abolition of the death penalty? We saw extrajudicial killings. A lot of individuals were killed in this country. They went to McKinney and killed our people. They went to Lonsar and did same. To many places around the country. You know, these are agents of the states, military men, men in uniform, you know, firing at unarmed civilians because they said they strike for a generator. They went to Tonko Limba, an OSD gunned down a 14-year-old boy in a by-election. Same was done at my 91. A lot of places around the country after the abolition of the death penalty. So do you want to tell me now, after you have abolished death penalty, which is constitutional and legal, you now accept extrajudicial killing? Those that conducted those killings, including Pademba Road prisons massacre, were never tried. They were not court-martialed. They were never tried. So if the law is actually the law and people take responsibilities for their action, those people will have been tried for their actions, because there is what is known as command responsibility. Even in international humanitarian law, the law of armed conflict, you cannot just give authorization for people to fire at unarmed civilians. Most people have been tried by the International Court of Justice for doing that. We saw the trial of Charles Taylor. We saw the trial of Colonel Idris and others that were involved in the war in Sierra Leone, Inganoma and others, for command responsibility, for giving command to your subordinate to carry out actions of killing or massacring civilians. We need to understand that clearly. The SLPP expunged the seditious libel law, Part 5 of the Public Order Act. I agree. They expunged it from the Constitution, from the Act, but at the end of the day, they replace it with what you can refer to as the cybercrime law. There is an act, the Cybercrime Act. So everything that was in the seditious libel law was also transported in the Cybercrime Act. And people have been incarcerated for that. Kemo Sisi was charged to court, you understand, and tried and was remanded. For what? They said for cyberbullying. Salute Janjalo. You understand? Dixon, journalist Dixon, and many other people have been arrested and detained using that particular Cybercrime Act, which was just a replacement of the Public Order Act, Part 5, the seditious libel law. So they don't have anything to tell me regarding that. He also said the APC did not implement anything in the TRC. No, we did. Because as a matter of fact, government is continuity. When Tijan Kaba came in, he decided to institute state institutions, to build state institutions, yeah, to introduce them as required by the TRC to ensure that good governance prevails. Like the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Human Rights Commission, the PPRC, the ONS, all of those institutions, state institutions were built. But for those state institutions to now be functional and operational, when Ernest Microma came in, it was his assignment to do so. Even the Anti-Corruption Commission, we gave its tooth to now bite. You understand? There are reviews. You go through the acts that were reviewed in Parliament during Ernest Microma, just to give the required capacity and powers to those institutions to function properly. So you cannot say the APC did not do anything. No. Government is continuity. We cannot come and start undoing what has been done by Tijan Kabana and introduce other things. No, we cannot do that. The APC, he also said, when it comes to Edmond Alpha, the APC did not know the law. But the APC can be proud to interpret the Local Council Act or the Local Government Act. Let me state, it is the right of the President to appoint electoral commissioners. I have stated this on countless occasions. Section 32, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, this is very clear. Nobody is saying it is not the right of the President. Nobody is challenging that particular section of the Constitution. That is not the case. What we are saying is that aside the constitutional mandate given to the President, there was a process, and there is still a process. We went to Bintumani and sat there for about 72 hours to agree on 8 resolutions, Jones. One of those resolutions was Resolution 3. It gave back to what is referred to as the Tripartite Committee. You understand? It is the Committee on Electoral Systems and Management Processes. But for sure, the Tripartite Committee, this one, it gave back to the Tripartite Committee. And recommendation 36 of this Tripartite Committee did state, it is recommended that we amend Section 33, subsection 2 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, Section 2 of the Public Elections Act, and Section 34 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone to make room for a search and nominating committee. To make room for a search. What is the role of the search and nominating committee? The role of the search and nominating committee is to invite invitation for people, to invite application for people who may want to serve as commissioners. So now they can now vet 3 names and send to the president. The president can now agree on one of those names and send to parliament for approval. You understand? So the process is on. The amendment bill is in parliament. We have done first reading. Because SLPP are aware that when we go to second reading, we are going to vote and we should have 2/3 majority, 2/3 majority. And when we go to third reading, we shall vote, and to carry the day, you have to have 2/3 majority, and they don't have the number to now command 2/3 majority. The president went ahead and appointed Edmond Alpha. But even before the appointment of Edmond Alpha, which was around the 10th of January, you understand, the 10th of February or so, on the 31st January, we had a meeting at Atuga, the mammoth meeting. In our press release, we stated all of the reasons why we convened the meeting. We did say we want the president to ensure that the Tripartite Committee is fully implemented and that ECSL is looked into properly, and that we do not want Edmond Alpha, even before his appointment. We did not only come to challenge it. We have stated it very clearly in one of our press releases after the mammoth meeting. And so the president still went ahead. So on the 10th of January, he wrote us a letter to now state he has appointed Edmond Alpha, Edmond Sylvester Alpha, a man who is full of controversies. This is the press statement, 31st January at Atuga. We stated it clearly. And one of the things, we also stated ECSL reluctant to reconstitute the political party Leone Committee, PPLC, and allow co-chairmanship by the largest political parties as recommended undermines inter-party trust. This is section recommendation 20 of the Tripartite. It was recommended that the political party Leone Committee that sits to take crucial and critical decisions at the ECSL was never reconstituted as agreed. You understand? So for this reason, we did state that Edmond Alpha was not ready to deliver fairness at the commission. So we had not wanted president to appoint him. And we stated reasons I will come to later. But let me conclude with the statements made by my brother Moses. So we understand the law clearly, that this constitution is sacrosanct, that we are not saying the president, who is the fountain of honor, who is the guardian of this constitution, was actually wrong to invoke that particular clause. We are just saying, let there be fairness. Because even in democracy and good governance, equity is a paramount feature. We need to understand that clearly. So now let me proceed. He said, the agreement for national unity, some have dubbed it as a gentleman's agreement. It is not a gentleman's agreement. This is a contract. It is a pact. It is a treaty. It is not a gentleman's agreement. When you say gentleman's agreement, we can meet at AYV and discuss on an issue, and then we have a shake of hands, and then I go without anything written. That is a gentleman's agreement. But when you convey a meeting of such for 72 hours, you have the Commission for National Cohesion, Peace Commission for National Cohesion, you have the African Union, the ECOWAS, the Commonwealth, and even a representative of the UN Security Council to now sit for 72 hours, come up with 8 resolutions. One of those resolutions, they sat for 6 months. They came up with more than 500 pages reports and 80 plus 4 recommendations. You cannot call this a gentleman's agreement. You cannot. And in fact, what we need to know is also very clear. Even at the preamble, it stated, the June 24, 2023 multi-tier elections, which declared Chief President Julius Maada Bio as winner, ended in a controversy with the APC rejecting the announced results. A 3-day mediated dialogue between government of Sierra Leone and the All People's Congress was actually conveyed, but it went ahead to say this recommendation from the committee shall be actionable and implementable You understand? Shall be actionable and implementable. You cannot call this a gentleman's agreement. And the recommendations are clear. So we have to be sincere with ourselves as we proceed in the governance process of this country. If we are not sincere, then it will be a problem. Nice. So lastly, before you maybe you want to ask our sister to have a bite, Section 33(2) of the 1991 Constitution is sacrosanct. I want to allay the fears of my brother. We are not discarding it. We are not putting it in the dustbin of history. We are just saying there is an amendment process ongoing. And we have also stated that within the appointment of Edmond Alpha, if that is done, and other recommendations are addressed, APC shall call off the plan nationwide peaceful protest.
Okay, thank you very much, Mikhail. Let me hear from you, Elena. I mean, they've spoken lengthily. Both the APC and the SLPP have actually, schooled each other about their history. Let's talk about human rights and the law for a while. What makes something legal? He is saying, Payamba is saying that, by virtue of the fact that they met for almost, 5 months, they put together, over 80 plus 4 recommendations. The ECOWAS was involved, all the international communities, and all of the noise that was around this particular, agreement. It's legal. Mambu is saying the particular document was never gazetted, and that it wasn't tabled in Parliament, which makes it illegal. Where do we stand?
So each of the speakers from the different parties have, used the law or referred to the law in a way that is convenient for them. And this is one of the things that we often see. The law is invoked or used, when it's convenient, and oftentimes ignored or taken as optional when it's not convenient. But what I haven't heard in all of this is about governance, how we're addressing the current governance crisis that we have in Sierra Leone, and you talked about it in your introduction. So in all of this political fighting about what the Constitution says or doesn't say, and all of this political fighting about, a tripartite agreement, which citizens were not part of, by the way, and the election of an electoral commissioner, who many citizens probably don't even know who this person is, what his profile is. What is happening is there's a shift of focus from governance to petty power, politics and games, and that leaves the citizens to bear the real, cost of this fight. And we've seen it. We're seeing it. We're feeling it. We're experiencing it. Soaring costs of living. We are in a country where 78% of the country is food insecure. Where hunger is a very real issue for Sierra Leoneans. Incomes cannot cover basics, including our staple rice, for the month. We have skyrocketing fuel prices, and those stem from increases in excise taxes in the national budget, not from foreign wars or whatnot. I mean, that was made clear by the Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And so, who is governing and ensuring that there are social safety nets for the people? That's what we want to know. That's what we want to focus on: governance, not on fights for power by political parties. We're dealing with public health crises. Freetown's waste management or the inability for Freetown to deal with the waste has created an enormous risk around sanitation, disasters, public health, of course, flooding, as we know. One of the major causes of flooding is in poor waste management, and also even long-term effects like pollution. So when there is a waste management problem, like the one that we have in Freetown, and we know that at least 29% of greenhouse gases come from, our waste that's in the streets. Who is dealing with that, whilst there is this fighting going on? And the poorest and most vulnerable are the ones who are the hardest hit. And then when you have the health effects or other effects, they are unable to cope. When there's this political fighting, we see violence erupt, whether it's through, we've seen it in the past through by-elections, where citizens basically become proxies for fighting this political fight on behalf of parties. We've seen citizens wanting to protest the rising cost of living, and those interests or those protests either being hijacked by political interests or turned into political fights. I mean, we also are seeing currently a focus on a tripartite process, as I said, that did not involve citizens, and a focus now on securing election-related constitutional amendments rather than lawmaking processes with MPs in Parliament that should give us a new people-centered constitution, one that looks at all of the recommendations that came from the Cowan Constitutional Review Committee, one that looks at the other recommendations, what else has transpired in the last decade since those recommendations were made that would allow us to have a people-centered and new constitution. When politicians bicker like this, who is looking out for us as citizens? That is what we have not heard, and the continued focus on elections or the tripartite process ultimately does not benefit us and comes with a real cost for us as citizens.
You have founded Citizens Barrier to impartial unions, to drive social change. You have contributed as well to legal reforms, including gender equitable land laws. Let me read you something from constitutional scholar Larry Diamond, who has written this extensively on democratic consolidation. Diamond argues that, quote, the law or the rule of law is not merely about having laws on paper. It's about the consistent and impartial application of those laws, especially against, the powerful. Now, just a while ago, I'm sure you listened to Mambu, the SLP attempted to install an acting mayor, without legal authority, and was stopped when their own councillor refused the role just a few days ago. The APC has also withdrawn from governance entirely, leaving the city, as you've said, in limbo. Meanwhile, civil society organizations, including some you work with, have also called the appointment of Alpha lawful but procedurally defective, they say. While it's legal, they are saying that it is procedurally defective. Now, when both parties trample on the law, what does it say about the state of human rights advocacy in Sierra Leone generally?
As I mentioned before, we have a governance crisis, and a crisis around not just democratic institutions, but also what democracy looks like and how it manifests in Sierra Leone. And you mentioned it earlier, you asked about public trust, right? Yes. And whether public trust has been eroded. And this gets to the heart of, the social contract. When the rule of law fails, when laws are not respected, or when laws are bastardized to, to be used basically for individuals or politicians' benefit rather than the greater good, then that affects the social contract when you have any kind of impact on governance, whether it's through because of political fighting, whether it's through boycotts or whether it's some other type of political fight, that certainly affects democracy. And when you take an oath of public office at any level, from councillor to district council chairperson, mayor, parliamentarian, and the president, you are making a sacred contract with the people. Okay. Whether they belong to your political party or not, whether they voted for you or not, once you are elected and you take that oath, a contract is formed with the people. And that contract trumps anything else. And it also has an expiry date, which is, at the next election. But with political fights, the contract is, usually only remembered, as elections are approaching, and citizens are being sweet-talked, after 5 years of neglect, and regardless of who, is in power, and usually there's also worsening social and economic conditions within that period. So then we enter into contracts with the next set to fix the damage that has been done, expecting a different result when the underlying conditions have not changed, when the underlying politics and toxicity of the politics has not changed. And they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, we are definitely at the point of insanity. And the question is how that insanity manifests. You asked about the TRC report. 35 years ago, the same conditions that citizens are facing now that have led to feeling a sense of apathy and disgruntlement and more and neglect are the same ones that manifested in a brutal civil war. And luckily we have the TRC report, which is a comprehensive record of the war and its causes, so there is no revisionist history, and there's no rewriting of facts as to what the causes were, who's responsible, etc. But there's no denying that the war occurred under many of the same economic and political circumstances that we are in today. And it touched every one of us, including those who are currently in political office, and it did not differentiate between who is a politician and who is not a politician. Of course, we at Citizens Barre are trying to ensure that, the insanity that we're now experiencing manifests itself in informed, collective, nonviolent action, but we also have to be very realistic about the fact that petty, divisive politics is creating a ticking time bomb amongst the citizenry. And most of the citizenry are too young, unlike us on this panel, to have known or to know the bitterness and devastation of the war in order to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So it's no longer even a matter of, what the present leaders or the politicians want to be their legacy. It's really a question of what we as citizens want out of our social contract with them. And it's for us to ensure that we get that.
Let me go back to Mambo. I'll quote you Lawyer Society, which has condemned the timing of Edmond Alpha's appointment. Now, they argue that proceeding before implementing recommendation 36 of the Tripartite agreement, which calls for a search and nomination committee, quote, could undermine the integrity of the reform process and creates the perception of lack of commitment to genuine electoral reform. End of quote. Now, your government's position, as articulated by Yusuf Keketoma Sandi Esquire, is that the president acted constitutionally, which you've said yourself this evening, under section 17114 of the Constitution, and that the mere first reading of a constitutional amendment bill does not, suspend existing law. Legally, that may be correct. Now, the political scientist, Robert Putman, I'll quote you him briefly, and I quote, he says, institutional trust is built slowly and shattered quickly, end of quote. Now, if you're saying the APC is wrong to boycott, which I'm sure you've criticized soberly, is your party not equally wrong to ignore the spirit of an agreement that was intended to restore, peace generally in Sierra Leone after the disputed, 2023 elections?
We are not. But before I get to that, I want you to keep that question. Before I get to that, let me reply to my sister on few things that she said when she started making her expose. She said the political fighting is continuing while citizens are focused on delivery. In other words, she also said that the political parties have not been focusing on delivery, but rather focusing on political infighting. So I want my sister to understand this. The SLPP is a very structured political party. We are the political party in governance. We have the political party as a party headed by Sir Jimmy Batilo Songa, supervised by the leader, who is the president. We have the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone. There is a clear distinction between the functions of the political party SLPP and that of the functions of the government. I can allay the fears of my sister here that the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone is focused on delivering for the people. And as we speak, the government is delivering both local and internationally. A few days ago, the president was in Miami. I know she followed that. The president was in Miami, sharing a global stage with the president of the United States. I know you followed when President Donald Trump came to the stage and said, Madabiyo, I love that name, right? It shows the level where the SLPP government have taken Sierra Leone, to the point that at the international level, our president, who is now the chairman of ECOWAS, for the second time in the history of Sierra Leone, is sharing economic forums globally, where majority of heads of state from Africa were not invited, but he was invited. So these are
pointers. That's useful.
It's useful. I'm coming there. Okay. I'm just trying to answer a question. Secondly, a few days ago, our first lady was at the White House. Yeah. Not to accompany her husband, because that's what we used to see in Sierra Leone, right? Where presidents are invited, like former President Koma was invited to the White House, and he was accompanied by her wife. But this time we saw the First Lady of the Republic of Sierra Leone was invited by the First Lady, the only African First Lady to be invited by the First Lady of the United States of America to the White House to go and discuss, have a diplomatic and well-crafted discussions on how the new media technology can transform the educational sector, especially for girls and boys. We all saw that at the global stage. We're not celebrating it. These are huge gains for our country. We should be proud as a nation, seeing our president, our first lady, championing causes regarding the development of the country. Let's leave that. Let's look at the education sector. I know my lady here, starting 2018 today, has been following the revolutionary progress when it comes to enrollment, when it comes to quality, especially enrollment of girl child in this country in the education sector. I know she had followed the technology in the education sector before this time. Parents used to buy scratch card. They are not buying it anymore. Parents used to go to the internet cafe to search for their kids' results. They are not doing that anymore because the SLPP government have brought in technology to save costs on parents. I know she also have followed the reduction of costs on parents regarding kids that are going to school. Look at agriculture. I know she's read the FAO and IFAD report for 2024-2025, where they said WFP importation of rice have dropped by 39%. Why? Because they are now procuring local products that will produce. Sierra Leone is estimated to reduce the importation of rice in 2026 by 34%. This is as a result that the government is focused to make sure we continue to deliver for the people.
But you're not looking at the other side of the report.
No, I'm coming. I'm looking at the other. I'm looking at the other side of the report. But now, you also saw the Ministry of Agriculture have partnered with the military of Sierra Leone. The Sierra Leone Army are now partnering with the government for the first time to make sure we actualize feed salon, to make sure we produce enough. Today in Sierra Leone, my sister will attest, since Sierra Leone was established, this is the first time we are now producing iron ore in country.
We are grossly food insecure. I hope you know that, Mambu.
I know, but we are making...
Malnourishment is quite rife. I'll quote you the 2024-2025 World Food Programme report. 77 to 78% of the population in Sierra Leone is food insecure. About 17% are severely food insecure. They briefly describe food insecurity as chronic and structural.
Okay, read that same report for 2007.
The country linked to economic instability. I understand weak agricultural productivity is the base, the main cause. Now, I'll quote you as well the Global Hunger Index assessment for 2025, which ranks Sierra Leone 108 out of 123. That's why I said you're not looking at the other side of the report.
I'm looking on all sides.
Okay.
Is Sierra Leone making progress? So when you quote 2025, go back to 2022, 2021, 2018, 2016, then you follow the trend. You will see the progress Sierra Leone is making in terms of moving towards food security. Okay. You will see the progress we're making as a country. Okay. As I said, Sierra Leone have reduced importation of rice. Sierra Leone is now producing. Sierra Leone is egg sufficient, and we're even exporting. For the first time, we are egg sufficient in this country. Sierra Leone have, when we came to power, it was only 6 mining companies that are operating when we came to power. Today we have 13. So in terms of the development spheres, not only are we participating in democratic debate with our colleagues, but the government is being focused because the APC agenda is to distract the SLPP from delivering for the people so that they can have a campaign message for 2028. We know that game. We've been playing that game. But we are very focused. The politicians are playing the politics. You see, the president is very focused. When the president went to give oath of office to Edmond Alpha, you heard what he said. He said, in 2012, it has happened to us. APC appointed 2 different electoral commissioners, including Infa Ali and Christiana Top. The SLPP contested those appointments. Did we boycott Parliament? No, we attempted to, but we held meetings. And the SLPP members of Parliament agreed to go back. Because after our legal team looked at the Constitution, they knew that the SLPP had no legal basis to boycott those appointments.
I'll bring you back to what I asked earlier, because I think you're swaying away a bit.
No, I'm not.
I had asked about trust generally when you've not honored the Tripartite recommendation.
So that's what I just wanted
set out to formulate a search committee.
What I'm trying to do, I just wanted to allay the fears of my sister that the SLPP government is delivering. The government is delivering in as much as we're also playing the politics with our colleagues. So that's one. Let me come to Mikhailo. When he spoke, when he was replying to me, he mentioned few things.
I would appreciate if you would answer my question first before going to him, because I had asked why, you will not trust the APC boycotting governance, but you will not honor the very tripartite recommendation that seeks to bring peace after the disputed 2023 elections.
We have honored all the recommendations of the tripartite agreement.
No, but the president went ahead and appointed Edmond Alpha, a man whose reputation is grossly
let me ask you a question.
being criticized here.
No, let me ask you a question.
It's legal, by the way. I'm sure you want to go
Let me ask you a question.
It's legal.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have any tripartite recommendation that says the president should not use the Constitution? Did you have it? That said the president don't have the power as long as this tripartite is in effect. The president don't have the power.
Are you sure you want to bank your argument on that philosophical
No, I'm asking you a question now because
you as a what you're asking doesn't make much sense really. At that time it would have been put in black and white really, but should that really be there?
No, it should be there because you know why? And even if that is not there, we have a lawyer here. The president has supreme executive authority.
No, it wouldn't have made sense even to say that, to include a clause that would say the president should not use the Constitution.
Oh, God.
Yes, go ahead, Mambu. I'm just guiding the conversation.
Yes, I know, but I hope when other speakers are giving their exposure, you will do the same thing. What Definitely. I'm saying is, the SLPP government have not altered the implementation of the agreement for national unity. We have not altered the implementation of the tripartite agreement. We are not like the APC. After Justice Kawan worked so hard.
But fingers are pointing at you.
No, I'm coming. We have not. I have the evidences with me. the SLPP government have implemented and continue to implement the Agreement for National Unity and that of the recommendations of the Tripartite. How are we doing that? We have established a secretariat, right, which Golokata is heading. You've hosted Golokata here many times in your program, which Golokata is heading. And institutions, because the Tripartite recommendations is divided into institutions. ECSL have some they are supposed to implement. PPRC have some they are supposed to implement. The legal reforms, there are some legal reforms that the Ministry of Justice is championing. There are some that the Human Rights Commission needs to implement. Yeah. So it's a holistic process. It's very cumbersome.
But you yourself do not trust this particular agreement. You do not trust this agreement.
No, we trust the agreement.
No, you don't trust it actually. Earlier you said that it's just a gentleman's agreement.
The SLPP, the agreement.
You said there is no legal basis.
Of course, there is not.
And you said it's just a gentleman's agreement.
No, it's not me saying, as a journalist, you should be able to challenge us. Before you come here, you should do your research and homework. If it has legal basis, you can say it.
But I tell you, unlike you, I stay up all night reading.
No, I know.
Understand what I'm doing. There are several research in front of me this evening. I'm not even going to be able to use all of them this evening.
So in order for us not to waste time,
I don't sleep at night. I read for fun.
Okay, good. So in order for us not to waste time in some of these topics, those questions that you are asking, you yourself, after reading, for example, the Constitution, the ECSL Act, you should be able to have those answers yourself.
No one is saying that what the president did is illegal.
No, I'm coming. Not that. Yeah. One question you need to ask when you read is the Tripartite agreement binding and legal by law?
Is that important? That's the question I'm putting to you.
No, that's what
if really peace is what we did in this nation, does it really matter?
Okay, let's agree.
Does it matter whether it's legal or not?
Okay, so let's agree it's not legal.
When international committee, huge thousands, I'm talking about millions of dollars was poured into this process.
Okay, let's agree it's not legal. But the Tripartite recommendations matters. And the SLPP government have been implementing the Tripartite agreement to the letter. And the proof to that is the SLPP government, headed by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, have taken a constitutional amendment bill for the first time. Mind you, the constitutional review started in 1997. This is the first time in our history since the enactment of the 1991 Constitution, where a sitting government is taking a constitutional amendment bill to Parliament. The lawyer is here. She can confirm that. Peter Tucker did a lot of work. Nothing was done. It stopped at white paper. She knows that. Justice Cowan did a lot of work where it stopped. White paper. This is the first time a sitting government have taken frantic effort and step to table in Parliament a constitutional amendment bill. So first, that should show Sierra Leoneans that yes, the SLPP is committed. The SLPP government is committed in implementing the Tripartite agreement. But what's the debate here? The debate here is the APC is saying, yes, the president have all the rights in the world to appoint Edmond Alpha. Yeah. But you know how who are the APC? You remember when we were kids, right? A few days ago, the Minister of Information was here, and he said this. When we were kids, right, in the community, you have one child whose parents are rich, and that child will have a soccer ball, right? Will come to play. If you don't put a child in a soccer pitch, after some time, when he's tired, he will take the ball and go. So that's what the APC have been doing. But now, now the people of Sierra Leone told APC that Sierra Leone have its own ball now. APC can hold on to their own ball. They can keep the ball. But the people of Sierra Leone now get a ball. So this is the point. Two things. This is the point. We have established the legality that Edmond Alpha is legally appointed. Argument is closed. That case is over.
But they are saying you should remove it.
Okay, it's not what they are saying.
You should remove
these are these are political statements. Donald Trump wants America to reverse the 2020 election and pronounce him up to today as the president that won that election. That's what he wants. We are politicians. We can make political statements. The APC will sit in their comfort and make political statements. Oh, we don't want Edmond Alpha. We did it to Infa Ali. When they appointed Infa Ali, the SLPP rejected him.
So it's more like a tit-for-tat kind of situation, is that what you're saying?
No, it's not tit-for-tat. We follow the law and implement the law to the letter. If there is any provision within that SLPP have broken in the appointment of Edmond Alpha, let APC come forward with those debates. And then reverting saying that, oh, we are going to organize a peaceful protest. Now, APC have not exhausted all the legal remedy that is available to them. Which are? You understand? For example, going to court, you can file a petition. The easiest way now to remove Edmond Alpha, even the president don't have the power to remove Edmond Alpha anymore. He don't have it, except Edmond Alpha willingly resign. The president don't have, except he use supreme executive authority. And that will be a dangerous precedent because it has been set once by an Nkrumah. We cannot allow any other president to use supreme executive authority for the second time. So for us, the APC have a legal pathway. Just like Fijiya Nkrumah told them after the 2023 election that they should have gone to court. Not going to court was a political suicide that he committed in 2023. In the issue of Edmond Alpha also, not going to court, they are also committing political suicide. You know why? Because APC knows the law. The laws are clear.
But they are saying they don't trust the judiciary. That's the main argument.
So are you telling me?
You think that's a logical argument?
No, it's not logical. You know why? Because this is the same judiciary that we inherited. This is the same judiciary we inherited in 2012. They were in power. We went to the Supreme Court with the elections.
In essence, you're saying all of these parties are harm to the society?
No, they are not. The work, the SLPP government, the legal lady, she's here. She knows the reforms we have done with the judiciary. She knows that. There have been statistics reports come out regarding the expansion of the, regarding the expansion of the judiciary, the decentralization of the judiciary. You understand? The pumping of more judges. Taking justice, access to justice across the country, taking justice to the doorstep of the people. She knows that the expansion we have done in 8 years.
I've done an extensive research on the judiciary recently, but I will tell you that the judiciary is financially incapable of functioning properly in this country.
Okay, properly, right?
But they don't have money.
Okay,
do you know this? That they don't have money.
Every institution of Sierra Leone is suffering.
I went to McKinney, Bo, Kenema, Kailao, around this country. All of these courts, they are financially malnourished.
Okay.
They don't even have printers.
So every institution in Sierra Leone, every democratic institution in Sierra Leone, including the other two arms of government, are struggling financially. That's a fact. I am SLPP, I can tell you. Our country is largely run by donors. It is fact. We're not running away from it. But the question remains, as Sierra Leoneans, are we making progress in terms of expanding justice, making sure citizens have access to justice? Are we making progress? The answer is yes. International community knows we're making progress. Sierra Leoneans know we are making progress. A few days ago, I listened to an APC flag bearer who said he has been going to the courts and winning cases. But when it comes to the APC going to courts, they will tell you, oh, we don't trust the courts. But there are individual lawyers like Adi Madkoli, they go to the courts and they win high-profile cases for their clients, and they are making money as a result of cases they are winning. Why is APC not making use of the court? For example, now, Edmond Alpha, APC can file a petition. The only body now that have the legal authority to remove Edmond Alpha is the Supreme Court of the land. The APC said they have justification. They said Edmond Alpha supervised local elections where 49 was turned to 149. That is a clear evidence. Get those RIF forms, get those documents, file a petition to the Supreme Court of the land, and make sure the Supreme Court of the land adjudicate those matters. If they found Edmond Alpha wanting, the Supreme Court will rescind his appointment and then ask the president to make another appointment. But saying that you are not using you are not exhausted because protest always is the last resort.
But your party chairman has also said they are going to protest. To what end?
No,
why are you two protesting?
Two things.
Why are you protesting?
Two things.
You are the government of the day.
No, I'm coming. Two things. I told you earlier on.
Okay.
I told you about Marlene, right? The movie Marlene. You remember my expose when we started. I told you about Marlene, right? I told you that the democracy of this country rests on the shoulders of SLPP. I told you that. So what we're doing as a political party, this is devoid of government. As a party who suffered, whose supporters came out under the bullets, RPGs in 1996 to restore this democracy. Those same supporters and the spirit of those we lost during those elections will rise again when APC come out. We have already written to the police. We've written to the IG. We've written to the IG for clearance, stating that the day APC will be coming out for peaceful protests, the SLPP will also be coming out in. My brother, let me tell you this.
Mambo,
no, let me land on this point.
I listen to you.
My brother, let me land on this point. The SLPP will come out in a way the APC have never seen before. Because for us, when we come out, we will not only come out, not only because we know the hotspot of APC.
To what end are you protesting?
The end is to protect. Listen, the end is to protect the democracy of this land.
Protect.
The democracy.
I hope you are aware, Babu, that whenever people protest, people die in this country. And if all of you should come out, I mean both of you, APC and SLPP, the same day.
Okay, let me hold you by your word.
A lot of people will die.
Okay, let me hold you by your word. You said, let me hold you by your word.
That is distortion of governance.
Just let me hold you by your word now. You said, let me hold you by your word. You said, if we people are aware that all of us are aware that when people protest, people will die. For us in the SLPP, we're aware
You are aware, but you still want to go out.
Because we have to protect this democracy. APC have not respected the tenets of this democracy. APC have not respected the rule of law in this country, because the APC that we know have not been using the judicial and legal precedent and legal opportunities available to
them.
Let
me listen to Payamba for a while. Mikhailo, you've listened to Mambu. I mean, he has spoken a lot, and even, I mean, they've also said that they were going to be protesting on the day that you're coming out as a party. Now, I know you have a lot of things that you want to respond to, but briefly, before you do, couldn't you have actually resorted to going to court to petition Edmond Alpha, as he has said? Why not use that route?
First of all, let me answer your question directly. As you've stated, I was taking notes because I like civilized debate. Yeah? No, the Supreme Court, it said, if we go to court and they have clear evidence before them that Edmond Alpha, his reputation is tainted, there is no credibility, they will rescind. They will not rescind. They may overturn. The president that appoint will rescind, but Supreme Court will not rescind, but overturn the president appointment. So let me...
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
No, I just wanted to make that correction. Yeah. Now let me proceed.
But is it not a formidable route to use?
Now,
Don't you think that's a decent route?
Can I proceed?
No, just answer this briefly.
No, can I proceed?
Why didn't the APC use that route?
We have made the best decision. We are.
That would have been noiseless.
We as politicians are aware of the court system. I am not here to reprimand the judiciary, but I will tell you for a fact that certain political matters can better be handled politically and not legally. That is the reason why we did not go to court. You understand? You understand? Judges are appointed by the president. In most cases, it is not easy for the president's decisions to be overturned by any judge. Across Africa, we've seen that. It is not easy. You understand? We have to know that clearly. Now, let me proceed. Now, Moses Mambu, he has been talking about Malin for a long time. This is not a movie. It is not a fiction. This is reality. We are not here for imaginary things. You go to your room at night, you switch on your television and watch a movie, and now assume to want to translate it to everyday happening.
Well, there's a context to that. He's saying that the power of
this is not a movie. Let me put it that way. And I will not even waste time on that. 49 versus 149. You see, I was there as an eyewitness. I was one of those attached to that election. Kelfalamaya, former Minister of Finance and former bank governor, who also served as a chief of staff, which they have dubbed chief minister, was the chairman for the APC in Koinadugu district after the death of Momo Conte of blessed memory. So I was there attached as the PR person for that election. I spent 40 days in Kabbalah. We obtained 149 in one of the councillor elections, local government. The district council was won by the APC chairman Tete. He was re-elected and is currently the chairman of Koinadugu district. So they had wanted to win a councillor seat, in Koinadugu at all costs and by any means necessary. So they went and played with the figure. They now changed 149 to 049 to now give SLPP the edge. We challenged that at that level. We have our RR forms, result reconciliation forms. The evidence is still there, we have it. No case, no derogating. In the future, we can even challenge that. We need to know that clearly. So that is that for that. And we've stated in our letter, our reply to President, all of the reasons why we did not approve the appointment of Edmond Alpha. I don't want to go that far. Let me don't make repetition, but let me proceed. Now, the Tripartite recommendation versus the Leone Peace Accord, he spoke about it. I've conducted an extensive research on Leone Peace Accord. You see, in one of my master's program, I wrote a paper on power sharing in African political system. I used the Leone Peace Accord. I looked at, because power was shared between the RUF, Fodi Sanko and Tijan Kaba. They made him second vice president. I also looked at Zimbabwe. There was power sharing between Robert Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai. And I also went to Kenya in 1998. There was power sharing. 2008. Arab Moi and Mwai Kibaki. You understand? So now it is different altogether. You see, this particular Leone Peace Agreement that my brother is referring to was an agreement between Sierra Leone as a government and the RUF. And in that Leone Peace Accord, some of the agreements that we are reached, we are not even countenanced by the United Nations. You understand? Because there was a cut-off point. When we met at Abidjan, we met at Conakry, at different places before going to Lome, they gave an amnesty for crimes committed in Sierra Leone, crimes against humanity, war crimes and all. But after a certain period, when they went ahead to continue to now commit crime, Francis J. Okello, that represented the UN Secretary General, did say the United Nations will not forgive anybody that has committed crimes after the cut-off period. The more reason why Inganoma and others were tried by the International Court of Justice. You understand? By the ICJ. You understand? We need to know that clearly. So it is different. So you cannot now come and start comparing. And secondly, we are talking about we, APC, not taking it to Parliament for ratification. Who takes it for ratification to Parliament? Who takes it for ratification? It is the leader of government business and not the leader of the opposition. We need to know that when government, Sierra Leone is not a monistic state, we are a dualistic state. We do not consider national and international laws as one and the same, or other laws not passed in Parliament. For some countries, as long as a representative is saying it is not legal, how can the chief minister, who is the chief negotiator for government, signed a particular, authorized by the president to send his signature on a particular document and he call it not legal? It means the government is not legal. We cannot say it is not legal. It is legal, my brother. It was signed in no less a place but State House by the chief minister in the full view of the camera and Dr. Samura Matubilsin Kamara, and there was an exchange of those documents. You cannot say they are not legal. They are legal. Are they enforceable? Yes, they are enforceable. Were they ratified in Parliament? No, they were not. The responsibility to ratify any document signed by the president, even the Convention on the Rights of the Child, you understand, CRC, around 1996 or so, you understand, when it was passed globally, it was not automatically applicable. You understand? They came to this country. Now, we have the Child Rights Act. I hope you are aware of that act. It was after the ratification and domestication that we now translate it to the Child Rights Act. CEDAW, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination. That led us to the 3 Gender Acts. You understand? So it is governments, after signing to a treaty, to a pact, to a convention, it is their responsibility to take it to Parliament for ratification. We did push for it. The Honorable Abdukagbo did push for it. But when government was reluctant to table it for ratification, you cannot come now and blame the APC. But be it as it may, even without ratification, it is the responsibility. For me, ratification was not even necessary because we are going to amend some section of the Constitution. We agreed to amend Section 32, subsection 3 of the Constitution. We agreed to amend Section 34 of the Constitution. We agreed to amend Section 2 of the Public Elections Act. So if there were agreements for amendment, there was no need for ratification because we are going to amend. If we were not amending any constitution, reference was not made to that effect, then you could have pushed for ratification. So out of goodwill, we allow government to actually take the lead on this. So we need to know that clearly. I just wanted to clear that. Now, FCC saga. You see, the SLPP, I was expecting much from Jimmy Batilo Songa. Much. As a young and energetic, brother, to have provided leadership. I think Jimmy Batilo Songa, if I was in his shoes, I would have proposed a dialogue with the APC leadership. You understand? Government is distinct from political parties. We need to know this. Governments may come and go. The state is constant, political parties are constant. There is the state called Sierra Leone. There is a political party called APC. There is a political party called SLPP. We may be given the mandates by the people through a social contract to govern for a certain period of time. You understand? And this will keep shifting from APC to SLPP and SLPP to APC. So they went and sat at their party office and now started arrogating some powers to themselves that they never deserved. They assume authority and start naming people as acting mayor. How can you just wake up one morning and declare an individual an acting mayor, which is not in the act? It is illegal to do so. Section 13 of the act, talks about vacancy. Section 16, sub 3, talks about other, things that will warrant the removal of the mayor. You understand? Section 16.6, I am certain, talks about a quorum. How can now they cannot even constitute a quorum to take any decision? Because to constitute a quorum, you need to have half of the elected councillors present in a meeting. To now take decisions when it comes to financial matter, you need to have 3/4 of the councillors present. 3/4 of 40 is 30. Decision matters. Decision regarding financial matters. You need to have 3/4. You understand? They don't have the legality. So now he went again and said, no, I was not mayor, I was not appointed acting mayor, I am just leading a certain group. But they cannot make any progress. So I think it was the responsibility of Batilo to have approached the APC to now sit as political parties. Let us discuss what is the way forward. How can we collectively approach the president to have a dialogue to resolve this impasse? But for you to come say, if the APC call for protest, it is guaranteed by this constitution, my brother. Go to chapter 3, fundamental human rights. Freedom of assembly is one of those rights. It is our right to call for a peaceful protest in this country. So the SLPP, the police cannot grant 2 clearance on the same day for a protest. They cannot. The SLPP are wasting their time. The IG cannot give them. It is their right to protest, but maybe they can only give them after the APC may have protested. They cannot give us on the same day to clash. That will not happen. This Moses Mambu sitting here, it was the same individual, I was here with him on AYV, that came in and challenged Yvonne Akisoya when he was member of civil society, that they are going to bring out 1 million man march in Freetown against Yvonne Akisoya for making a tribal statement. It was the chairman of Accountability now, together with Saul Lamin and others. You understand? As civil society came here, I came and challenged him that in fact Freetown is owned by the opposition APC, that if you assemble 1 million man march, we are capable of assembling 5 million man march in Freetown. So they panicked. They took the back seat and never proceeded. They went ahead and started printing t-shirts, obtaining money from government in the guise of civil society. He's now sitting here telling me if the APC protests, they will come out and protest. Let them come. We are ready. But as far as I am concerned, the IG cannot give 2 clearance on the same day for protest. If they want, they can protest.
So you said the IG has already accepted.
No, the IG cannot accept. No, that he cannot say so. No. The IG cannot accept. Now let me say, let me state clearly, it is their right to protest. We have the right to protest guaranteed by this constitution. It is clear. So when we apply for us to be given clearance to protest, after our protest, they can also apply if they so wish, but we cannot apply for protest on the same dates. It is not possible. Now let me proceed to another issue. The continuous focus on the tripartite does not benefit us. Yeah, no, it is not a matter of interjecting me. I am stating the fact as they are. Yeah, the lawyer, my sister, is saying the tripartite recommendations is not actually benefiting us. There are more important issues to focus on. She's talking about food security, electricity.
Delivering for the people.
Yes, I agree with her. We are wasting time as politicians because this should not have been a debate where there is sincerity. We should have just implemented this and proceed. But then the SLPP does not want sanity in this country.
Well, you say that.
I say so because they are refusing to do what is right and is in the interest of peace and cohesion in this country. They are refusing. But this is very simple. It is black and white. Amendment section, recommendation 36 is very clear. Even go to recommendation 78, my brother. In this recommendation 78, recommendation 78 is saying we as a people are to determine the system of government as we want. PR or first past the post. Now they are saying proportional representation at all costs, even in the amendment bill. When civil society like Chadi, Abdul Fatoma, and others have conducted a study, when Interreligious Council have conducted a study, they have all come out with a report clearly indicating that the people want the first past the post, which is the constituency-based system. They still want to impose the PR. The census, there is a time frame, 24 months before the next election, which is 2 years, 24 months. We should have concluded with the census and have the data, without which we cannot use because the law says 2 years before the next election. The census data should have been available for usage. All of that, they are sweeping it under the carpet, reneging to do what is right. So they don't want sanity, peace, and cohesion. We need to know that very clearly. My brothers did say a few days ago, the president was in Miami. the chairman of ECOWAS, he has given a lot of accolades to His Excellency President Bill. Let me state, for President Trump to have acknowledged President Bill is just customary. This is a conventional practice. You understand? Sierra Leone, let us don't forget that Sierra Leone was once regarded as the Athens of West Africa. Sierra Leone is a country that is respected globally. And so if Sierra Leone President Bill was a president in that gathering, it is but befitting for anybody to have acknowledged him. So it is nothing to celebrate. But I see my brothers and sisters in the SLPP are now parading as if it is a big achievement. They are celebrating all over the place. No, he did not only acknowledge President Bill, but he went ahead and also acknowledged other people, other individuals. He acknowledged Richard Attas, chairman of the FII Institute. He acknowledged Steve Witkoff, who is the U.S. Middle East envoy. He acknowledged Yassi Al-Yaman, who is the governor of the Saudi Arabia Public Investment. He acknowledged Gianni Infantino, who is the FIFA president. He acknowledged a lot.
The bottom line, he acknowledged him.
Yes.
Bottom line.
So the bottom line is, it is just customary. I cannot come here and I am delivering an official statement without acknowledging you, Jones, without acknowledging my sister or my brother Moses. It is just customary. You understand? So it is nothing to celebrate as if it is a big, big, big achievement for this country. No, we need to understand that clearly. Moses did say it is a huge gain for our country. How is that relate? How is that affecting us positively as a people and as a country? What is that changing? This was an investment, future investment conference. What are the packages are they bringing to Sierra Leone? What are the agreements? What are the future establishment of companies for employment to be addressed? These are the things I want the SLPP to bring here and talk to us about. So no, let him take note on that.
Okay,
he can respond later.
Yeah, but you're not interjecting me.
He said educational costs. Now, my brother Moses did say educational costs on parents have reduced. He said agriculture feeds Sierra Leone, cost of basic agricultural products, and a lot of things. He also said APC agenda is to distract the SLPP from focusing on governance. No, our agenda is to guide the process and even to complement government to succeed. But now, educational costs have not reduced. I have children that are schooling in Sierra Leone. You understand? For one to gain admission, even for you to transition from NPSE to JSS, your parents will spend more than 10,000 leones, which used to be 10 million, just for you to gain admission to JSS. From one, for you to transition from JSS, junior secondary school, to senior secondary school, let us agree there is free quality education. There is free education without quality. And that the intake has increased, but the burden on parents is too much. Before they don't pay now. Because if they charge me for 10 million for let me pick in 10,000, what used to be 10 million, for let where you get the requirement to, you get everything, but just for say you dey supply school uniform, you are going to give him or her books, you are going to give other learning materials, which government did promise that they were going to provide for parents. We need to know this. Agriculture, it is challenging. What is the cost of basic agricultural products in this country? How much then they buy pepper in a market? Think about banana, plantain, those basic things. They are very expensive. If you want to have a very decent, bundle of plantain, you can pay not less than 100 leones. What used to be 100,000. So it has not changed. What SLPP is saying on paper, it is not practical on the ground. Yes, the price of rice has reduced from what used to be 1,000 or 1 million to around 700 or 750 or so. You understand? But other agricultural products, they are still very expensive in the market. He has stated a lot of things. I am not done yet. Yes, except if you want to ask, I can pause.
It is easy for you to criticize, the SLPP now, saying all of these things that they are not performing well and all of that. But do you agree that you're disrupting governance in this country?
We are not disrupting governance.
Your mayor has left office, including her deputy.
No, but what are you expecting, Jones?
Your MPs have left parliament.
Yes, I agree, but that was a decision by the party. What are you expecting for us to sit and aid and abet the SLPP to now conspire to win the 2026 election? Yes.
Debating, shouting there. That's why it's called parliament.
Not enough. To talk, it is not enough. It is not enough because at the end of the day, some of those decisions, like the decision to appoint, is simple majority. They impose themselves. SLPP cannot get half of the seats in Port Loko. Let me tell you the disparity. They did say they obtained 22,000 votes in the local council elections in Port Loko. They did say they obtained 25,000 votes in the overall elections vote for presidency. And now come to the members of parliament, they did say they obtained 61,000 votes. How is that possible? When we understand the voting pattern in this country, they need all of that to give them the majority of the seats, so that when it comes to decisions like such, appointment decision, they can have a field day to now impose whosoever they want
because
to impose.
Before I hear from Elena, what's funny in this country is that we've never seen, I stand to be corrected, since I was a boy growing up in this country, I have never seen a situation where parliamentarians boycotted parliament because the price of fuel gone up or went up. They've never protested because of food prices. They've never protested in this country, for basic services. So when water, Goma Valley failed to supply water, when electricity is not enough for the people in this country, they would not. Well, it's always convenient for you guys to protest when it suits you best.
Yeah, I agree with you. As a Sierra Leonean, I have to agree with you.
Why?
I want to see, I am not in parliament, so I am not the best person to answer that question, but I agree with you. I also want to see a circumstance in which a set of parliamentarians will now come say, I am going to lead my constituency people to vote for lack of electricity and water supply or poor health conditions in my constituency. I want to see that equally. We all cannot be the same. I am Minkailu Kuroma. My thinking may be different from the other individuals. But as far as I am concerned, we cannot sit because of that to now allow the SLPP to have a field day. Because at the end of the day, you cannot rig elections on polling day. You can rig elections way before polling day. Those are the mechanisms to rigging elections. The SLPP did rig the 2023 elections by first imposing a midterm census as against the advice of professionals like the UNDP, the European Union, and many other institutions. Against the boycotts of the opposition, they went ahead and imposed a midterm census on us. At the end of the day, they used the midterm census data to delimit boundaries. In fact, the data was not enough. They took the 2015 decennial census and the midterm census of 2021, put together, now divide by 2 to start allocating seats. That was wrong. Let me conclude, please. Moses did say we appointed Christian Atop. No, we did not. It was Tijan Kaba that appointed Christian Atop in 2007. Maybe her mandate was renewed, but we did not appoint her. Okay. We need to know that clearly. Do you have any recommendation that says the president should abandon the constitution for tripartite recommendation? No recommendation can state that. The constitution cannot be suspended. This is the ground norm.
So you agree that it was legal for the president to appoint him?
Yes. Okay. And we are not saying there was a clause that stating that president should abandon the constitution. No. We are just emphasizing that there is a clause, recommendation 36, asking for amendment of certain sections in the constitution.
And is that amendment?
We need to know clearly.
That's the question.
But the amendment is ongoing.
It has been abandoned.
One might argue.
It has been abandoned because they had wanted to. Yeah, because we've done first reading, they did not allow second and third reading to take place before the appointment because they don't want
to. The more reason why your people should be in parliament, don't you think so?
Nah. But why the rush? Why the rush? Why the rush to appoint a Marva?
You see,
now let me conclude.
Please do. I want to hear from Elino.
Yes, let me conclude. He said the SLPP is not like the APC. We have not altered the tripartite. You have altered the tripartite recommendation.
In what way?
In many ways. Okay. First of all, recommendation 78. Did say we are to agree on the system of government. The people, the majority are saying first past the post constituency base. You are saying a proportional representation. That is alteration. Secondly, the constitution of the tripartite implementing steering committee that is headed by the chief minister, that was not the provision of the recommendation. They went and constituted themselves into a club, a political club appointing government ministers and the chief minister to now be chairman of the steering committee without referring to the APC. They appointed Honorable Abdukagbo, Yvonne Akisoya, and Beolamtil from Makini, only 3 out of about 20 committee members. What can 3 individuals do when it comes to voting at that committee? They altered that. The recommendations made provision for the establishment of a secretariat that is being headed by Golo Kata. We are not consulted, even though the recommendation did state clearly how the process should go on. We have asked in our press release, the recent one, that we want the committee to be reconstituted and co-chairmanship be given to APC.
I think you're asking for a lot.
We are not asking for a lot. We are asking for what is
the removal of a
yes.
You're now asking for the...
Yes, it is clear. We are asking that the committee be reconstituted. The Tripartite Steering Committee, Chief Minister should not be the chairman of that committee.
Okay.
He has political intention. He wants to become president. Okay. He can use that moment to manipulate a lot of things. We do not want him as chairman. We need to know that clearly. Again, even the secretariat is not balanced. Most of them working at the secretariat are gatekeepers. We sabi ourselves now this country. Okay. Most of them are carrying members of the SLPP. We sabi ourselves.
Do you have names of these people?
No, he stated, Moses, when Sirona, even when he was civil society, me know what's in leaning. You understand? I know who side they look, what's in political. It is stated we have lived in the same house. He's my brother. Okay. I have known him for several years. And so we sabi ourselves now this country. From university, I can tell you who is APC, who is SLPP. Okay. You understand? So we need to know that clearly.
You know, clearly, I mean, let's talk the people now. I mean, we've listened to the politicians. They've spoken a lot this evening. And what's clear is that nothing is clear. At this point, it appears as though they are fighting for themselves and other people. How do we strike a balance? How can we empower the people to hold these people accountable more than they are already doing?
So what is clear from this conversation and what is happening currently in our political environment and governance environment is that politicians and political parties have taken citizens for granted. I mean, I'd love to know how, you know, international appearances with U.S. leaders will reduce the rising cost of living, how that's going to reduce fuel prices, how that's going to protect the girl child in Cambia, how from gender-based violence, how that will improve the quality of our education system, right? Not the number of school-going pupils that we have, but the quality of our educational system, which is fundamentally failing our citizens, you know, our young citizens. How that will, those appearances will ensure that citizens in mining communities and communities with large-scale agriculture will be able to have control over decision-making about their land and will benefit from, you know, mining and mining agreements. Okay. I mean, we are constantly gaslit as citizens, as if we don't know our own realities. And, you know, so I want us to talk about, you know, what our realities are. And we're constantly, you know, data is constantly thrown at us. I mean, someone, I can't recall who, but says people don't eat data. But what you know, they fail to realize is that people's lived realities is also data, and I would argue that it is you know, some of the most important data that should be at the heart of governance. So let's look at realities. Right now, we have a finance bill for 2026 that you know, introduced higher customs duties on imports, you know, like tomato paste, water, Maggi cubes, etc., to protect local manufacturers. Understood. However, if the production of rice and these goods has not already increased and made them available on the market and available cheaper on the market, introducing those higher customs duties puts a strain on the people, right? You have to understand what the experience of the people is. Look at the fuel price increase. As I mentioned earlier, it's not a result of foreign wars. It is a result of a deliberate increase in excise taxes in the Finance Act. And that was a revenue generation mechanism. That was what it was for. That burden, that cost is borne by ordinary citizens. The makituman, a fish, once fuel go up, because we have an electricity problem. So in order to keep fish cold, you have to use a generator that uses fuel. The cost of transportation for citizens has gone up. Every single thing, even the cost of cold water sold on the street goes up when there's a fuel price increase. Look, the lack of MPs in Parliament means that we cannot move forward with, for instance, the Constitution Amendment process. And even at that, it's much ado has been made about the fact that the a Constitution Amendment bill has been, introduced. It is a Constitution Amendment bill that focuses on elections and politics only. That is for the political parties. It does not focus on the things that citizens, that women have been clamoring for a decade or more as to what they want in a new and progressive constitution. So let's talk about, realities. If we had people-centered governance, we would not have a Counterterrorism Act that was questionably signed into law, and in which both political parties in Parliament somehow did not make any or somehow ignored, or somehow overlooked, or somehow didn't even see the fact that that law allows government and communications companies to intercept private communications without having to go to court first and get a court order. The same, even the MPs who are now clamoring about their privacy and why citizens shouldn't have access to them, passed a law, maybe because I don't know what they were focused on, but clearly they were not focused. They did not have a citizen-focused lens when they passed a law like that. So when we're talking about these things, we have to understand that political parties, they are not bigger than us as citizens. And we've gotten distracted by their fights and inflated. We're the ones as citizens who really inflated, their egos by getting sucked into their fights as proxies. And that means that they're not held accountable, on governance. We don't focus on whether or not they're delivering. We don't pay attention on corruption or how our money is used. Okay. But if tomorrow we as citizens decide that the cost of this, political fighting is too high, and decide that we either want to, forget political parties, we're voting for independents only who represent our interests, or we are not going to vote at all, what would political parties do? They will certainly get their acts together, because they can only do what we allow them to do. So this is where, when we talk about agency and empowerment, it is for us to recognize our own power and utilize it. Right.
Thank you very much, Leone. Let me now hear from the lead producer of this program, Nyake Mo, is here to read some of the messages we've actually trapped from across our social media platform. Good evening, Nyake. Welcome. Good
evening, Victor Jones. Let's roll with the messages for tonight. Swissman says, if meeting with President Trump can create a change in our governance system, I think Sierra Leone should have become a paradise. How many times our leaders have visited the United States, and with all the visits, where is development and where is the change? We are sticking foreign attraction and forget about our social responsibility as leaders. We pray for a better day in Sierra Leone. Kamara Charles says, political infighting on governance in Sierra Leone, it is the ordinary people who pay the price. It's simple. Alassane Mohammed says APC and SLPP are not fit for purpose. Whichever way you cut them, fry and dry, both parties cannot develop Sierra Leone. It is all about politicians' wealth creation and not the interests of the people. Ibrahim IBN Masood says, my question here for peace and sanity. I can still remember during the tenure of former President Kaba, where they signed the Lome Peace Accord, where one of the recommendations is to appoint the rebel leader at that time and even to give him a position of chairman for strategic mineral and position equivalent to vice president. All this was in the name of national cohesion and peace. Is it not applicable now in Sierra Leone? Albert Ekuda Thompson says the government is calling the Tripartite a gentleman's agreement. That is why they refuse to fully obey it. It's very simple. It's a shame to our country. Lolo Kasparini says, SLPP, we put policies whenever we are in governance. We have given free education, built NASIT, NATCOM, and other state institutions. Mohammed Masakwa says the APC protects the Constitution of Sierra Leone. The SLPP is the opposite. Peter Baibangura says 24 years wasted according to you, Mambu, but in that 24 years, we have our national stadium, U building, law school, Bank of Sierra Leone, Kokri, Aberdeen Bridge, among others. Sir Kaku says the SLPP party failed in every aspect of governance in Sierra Leone. Victor Jones.
Much indeed, Nyake. We have like 5 minutes to wrap up. I'll start with you, Payamba. You've listened to the messages. Quickly respond to them.
Yes, I'll respond to the messages as quickly as possible. But let me also remind citizens that we are here talking about good governance. Okay. But then there are features of good governance we need to look into. If these are addressed adequately, I think the opposition will not have problem with government. Okay. One is participation. When we say participation, it's a two-way street. You understand? The government will give in the citizens, opposition, they will create a platform for everybody to realize their potentials, you understand? For their wishes and aspirations to be also realized. If that is applicable, then there will be limited issues or problems insofar governance is concerned. We talk about transparency, the rule of law. The rule of law should not be convenient when the government wants to utilize it in its interest. You know, a lot of people have spoken extensively on the rule of law, including Lord Bingham. The law must affect everyone positively. But then the SLPP is doing contrary. When it comes to doing what is right in the interest of peace, they don't do it. When it comes to ensuring that justice is applied to affect everybody possibly, nice, they rape it. We need to understand that clearly. There is consensus orientation. We have to have a platform to sit and dialogue and agree on tangibles that will move this country forward. Right. We need to know that clearly. The messages, with all of the visits, where is the development and where is the change? Somebody saying if President Bio can be acknowledged by Donald Trump with all of those visits. There was a period very recently in December 2025, there was a special audit on government. They were instructed by the IMF to cut down on international travels by 50%. You understand? To also put about $70 million in our foreign reserve because they have plunged it. So clear instructions were given to government. So I agree with all of the money we spend on international travels. What are the returns? APC and SLPP are not fit for purpose. I think we are yet to see an alternative. We need to know that all over the world there are traditional parties. When you go to America, there are the Democrats and the Republicans. You go to UK, we have the Conservative and the Labour. You go to other countries, it's the same. So Sierra Leone, we have APC and the SLPP. Until a better alternative is presented, we'll get for BL to self. People need to understand that clearly. The message, the Lome Peace Accord, clear.
Okay.
We have to be respecters of the documents or the agreements we sign and implement them to the fullest. It is a shame to call the Tripartite a gentleman's agreement. I agree. It is not a gentleman's agreement. But finally, Moses did say, I was not here when he stated it, but one of the texter did say, Moses said 24 years was wasted. It was not wasted. We have tangibles. Right. Yeah. Now, even the ultra-modern road that was constructed from Kailan, from Kenema to Shegbema to Kailan, that was changed.
We don't have much time.
Yeah, the ultra-modern hospital that was in Kailan and Shegbema.
Babu, respond to the messages, please.
Most of the roads, other facilities were erected by the APC.
Go ahead, Mambo.
The SLPP has got
give me more the time. I know you give me the time.
Nothing.
No, go ahead. I mean, I don't have much time, Mambo. That's what I'm saying.
Speaking.
No, you can go ahead.
Go. For 11 uninterrupted years, APC wrecked this country. When they left in 2018, they left us on austerity. It's clear. They left us, they were running the country on bank overdraft. They were loaning money to pay civil workers in this country. When we came to power, am I protected?
Go ahead. You are taking loans to pay salaries.
Am I protected?
What is austerity? Austerity
in this country.
Please allow him to continue, please.
You need to know that.
APC left this country on austerity. They left
what
this
is
country
austerity?
on
You are running the country more than on austerity.
They left this country on bank overdraft.
You are running the bank overdraft too. You are taking
when
money
the
from the private sector, from the private banks to pay salaries.
Please allow him.
Nobody are doing the same thing.
Please.
You are doing the same thing.
You're not protecting me.
Go ahead.
And this is biased on the side of the AYV. It is important to protect your guests. True, it is important to protect your guests.
I feel grossly insulted, Mambu, that you tell me this.
Because I can do better what he's doing.
This evening.
No, it is important to protect your guests.
You be so disingenuous.
No, it is important to protect your guests.
And grossly wrong to tell me that.
When he was speaking,
this is my program, Mambu. I have allowed you to speak.
It's disingenuous on the side of
no, you don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. That's disingenuity.
It's your responsibility
to the highest level.
No,
you are protected. Don't say the AYV is biased. That's extremely political for you to say. And grossly biased for you to even say that.
No, but it's the truth.
You're wasting your time.
When you gave me the opportunity,
you interjected me 15 times. You are wasting your time.
You did nothing. No,
I'll cut you off, please.
You can cut it off. Because that's who you are. Everybody knows that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Do you know me?
For 11
you don't even know me. I am not a politician like you. 11, I haven't told you earlier that I read for a living.
Said, let me go ahead.
No.
For 11,
you are insulting my personality, and I'm not going to take that.
You said, let me go ahead.
I'm not a politician.
Because
I'm a journalist.
Biased.
I am a journalist.
No, because you've been biased.
I am a journalist. You feel so.
No, it's not feeling.
No, it's you. You feel so.
Me the opportunity,
I am not biased. This is my program. I do what I feel.
When you gave me the opportunity, you interjected me 15 times.
Until you produce your own station, this is the AYV.
I wrote it down.
This is a journalism institution. It's not a political arena. Right, we ask questions that are important, and yours is to answer.
Okay, let me
go ahead, Mambu.
For 11 uninterrupted years, the APC left this country on banked overdrafts. When we came to power, this country was almost in the drainages. It was wrecked. People were going to Bome to collect rotten eggs that the APC brought in from Lebanon. That's what we inherited. When we came back in 2016, all the development partners have left, including World Bank and the IMF. When we came to power, we brought all of them back because we implemented a single treasury account bill, which brought back and centralized domestic revenue mobilization. In 2019, domestic revenue mobilization under the SLPP grew by 69%. That's what we did as an SLPP government. Two, my sister was speaking. You see, as an activist, it is important to praise data when it does not favor government. It is also important to acclaim data when it favors government. You cannot say when credible institutions bash at government using data, you can say, oh, they are credible. But when credible institutions produce data that backs the hard work by government, then you say, oh, people don't eat data. But it is those data that activists like you relied on to develop projects. You look at the data, how many girls are affected? How many boys are affected? Which community do I need to make interventions in terms of project? Those interventions are being informed by data. You use data to do it. When the SLPP said we met 250,000 kids in school, we have increased them to 3 million, it's data that backs it up. It's a fact. It's a fact. Mikhailo said he spent 10,000 on his kids. He has kids are going to school. He spent 10,000 Leone for his kids to move from JSS to SSS. I challenge him to produce that evidence from a government school. The government school his kid attended, where he spent 10,000 to ensure his kid migrate transition from primary to secondary school. I challenge him publicly for him to produce those evidence and the name of the government school where he spent those data. She spoke about fuel, and she said the prices of fuel has nothing to do with war. My sister, you're a legal person. No man is an island. No man stands alone. The global economy is intertwined. The global economy is connected. As a legal person sitting here and said the prices of fuel today is only because of the excise duty tax, and it has nothing to do. Is Sierra Leone a net producer of crude oil? No. Are we importers? Yes. Does the government import oil? No. Importation of oil and petroleum products is dependent on private companies. It is not government alone that sets the plaque, my sister. The plaque is set up by collective responsibility of both government and development partners. For example, when the war between America and Iran started, the IMF wanted petrol. Yes. The IMF wanted petrol to be 36 leon. Government said nothing. We're going to subsidize 3 leons to make sure it's happened. IMF said what? They said they have never and they will not support subsidies because subsidies don't benefit citizens. Subsidies benefit bigger companies. For us, this is the message we want to send to APC. Two messages. For us in the SLPP. Belai, talai, walai. This is my favorite quote. Belai, talai, walai.
You say that always, yes?
The 2028 elections that is coming. I'm not talking about all the buha. APC is coming, all the mind games. Victor Fo call it mind games. The mind games they are playing, all the 99 tactics they are deploying. The SLPP remain focused. We remain steadfast to make sure we follow the governance process. We follow electoral process to make sure 2028 will win on first ballot. And 2028 election, SLPP is going to win it based on our records, not based on propaganda.
Elino, we'll come back here. Your final comments. Clearly, of course, the two politicians, Elino, and they've made a lot of allegations against, each other. They've said a lot of things, but clearly, of course, what is lost in this equation is the people. None of them, both of them seated here this evening, are not talking about the people. How do we get these people to pay more attention to the people of Sierra Leone? Don't listen to them, just go ahead. Go ahead. But please, you guys are disturbing this program. Keep running away. Mambu and Minkailo, I will only crave your indulgence as gentlemen, so please allow the lady to make her point. Go ahead, my lady.
You no need for go to NAP again a long line at bank for withdraw your money. With the GTCO MasterCard, you can access your money now all ATM and quick pick one you go able for withdraw your money. For shopping in stores, both locally and internationally, and on tap day, with the MasterCard secure payments technology, you can shop with Collat because your transactions safe and secure. Plus, the GTCO MasterCard widely accepted, so you can use it at any location nationwide and around the world.
This entire conversation really has been about, this situation of political fighting, the fact that it's unlikely to change, and that change is not going to come from the political parties. But one thing I want to be clear, as you asked about, okay, what do we as citizens do in this? So Citizens Barre, first of all, is a platform for citizens to get and be informed, with credible information, come together to take collective action to address social justice issues in their communities or beyond, or nationally. We are not an NGO. We are a platform for citizens to be able to address these issues. So the issues that come to us, we do in-depth research, including, for instance, on the fuel price increase, and the fact that it came from the National Petroleum Regulatory Authority itself that the increased price of fuel was a result of the increase in excise taxes. But we also I mean, you can take that up with the NPRA. But we deal with data. We deal with like information and credible information, and we deal with citizens themselves. They come and utilize the platform. But why this is important is because this situation is unlikely to change from the side of the political parties and the politicians. But as I mentioned earlier, if we, the citizens, decide tomorrow that we are done with all of this infighting and the toll that is taking on us, we have the agency to allow their infighting to not continue to affect us. So some citizens are already tired of not just waiting, but tired of the fighting, stopping, service delivery, and governance. So let me give you a couple of examples very quickly. For instance, in Krube we know is prone to floods because of its location and the slum community, but also the waste, the amount of waste that exists there. But Krube had taken upon itself the last 2 years to tackle waste management itself, irrespective of the fact that in 2025 there was no budget allocation to the local government, which could have supplemented waste management. They held a cleaning exercise about a month ago, and they also developed their own flood early warning system. They took that upon themselves because they're done waiting for politicians to actually and political parties to actually stop the fighting and govern themselves. In Congo Town, residents of Congo Town, citizens, decided to fund their own school rehabilitation when the local government had not really even looked at the school for decades. So we as citizens have agency. Let's use it.
All right. Thank you so much, Leone. Now, this is where we'll end today's edition of the program AYV on Sunday. Join me on this panel where Leone Thompson, person you've been hearing from, an internationally trained lawyer and human rights advocate who doubles as the founder and managing lead of Citizens Bahrain. You also heard from Moses Selumambu, a former first civil society voice who now speaks for the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. And of course, you also heard from Alfred Minkailu Kogoma, a member of the main opposition APC party's publicity secretary. Now, I want to thank my producers, Emmanuel Nyakemomo and Ransford McLean, the graphic editors, Joshua Steady Bangura, and the entire AYV on Sunday technical and graphical crew. And I'll indulge you all in case you missed part of this live session this evening. The program will be rebroadcast on Tuesday at exactly 11 a.m. on our DSTV 399 channel, which is our international channel. Victor Jones are my names, as always, and you've been watching and hearing us from the top of Tower Hill on Wesley Street in the heart of this beautiful and colonial city, Freetown, where our studios are domiciled. Up next is Primetime News. Goodbye.